think Ryan's trying to talk to me. Ryan, were you trying to talk to me? I don't hear him. He was. I have no idea. What were you saying? Okay. He says, don't worry about it. Look at that. Okay. Hey, everybody. We still got a minute to go or so. Just getting everything all prepped and ready. And that's the problem with the clock over there is I can't be over here doing stuff. I got time on my face. It's like egg on your face, but it's time. Don't even ask. Alrighty, let's see here. Ryan's going to play with the sound to make sure that sounds good. We are all ready to go. Otherwise, I see a lot of people talking about, somebody talking about the firmware update that was just announced, which I will be discussing briefly as a little last-second insert into the show. I guess we'll open with that. Want to open with that? We'll close with that. You know what? We'll save that for the Q&A section at the end because I want to make this show about the 200mm. I don't want to be, and I'll reference that. Don't let me forget because it's a lot to do today. It's a lot to do today. Why not put the clock in the bottom left-hand corner? So the clock's position, it's frustrating. It has to do with the title placement because I want to have the title card up. So, it used to be here, but then I moved it over to here. And look, we're out of time. Because, let's get rid of that, because I wanted to have the clock playing while the title card was up. And so I did I've been playing with the title card format, as many of you have undoubtedly noticed. For a while, I was doing just kind of a picture full screen and then some text randomly around it. And then I kind of switched to this format where it was basically the picture is kind of a window inside of it, right? There's this border all the way around. There's a block that is just for text that has either a solid color gradient behind it, whatever is appropriate, and a solid place for the picture. I really like that format. But I wasn't sure if it was the most effective, so I did a little poll, and it was almost exactly split down the middle of which one you guys liked better. There were some suggestions to go with the picture with text somewhere on it, but be consistent about the text style format, which I totally appreciate as far as a consistency point of view and a recognition of that is your show, that is the PhotoJoseph show. But then again, I like changing the font to match whatever is happening in the picture. I mean, it doesn't always match, but then I like to try to find something relevant. The best example of that being when I did that Russian lens one a while ago. I found this really cool Cyrillic looking font, and I think that's really cool. So I don't know. I still don't know. I did this one like the old ones. I don't know. I like the consistency. It's certainly good from a branding perspective. I like being able to change the font though, which then leads us towards the third, kind of a 1/3, 2/3, 1/3 solid text, 2/3 picture format. I don't know. Still debating this one, but for now, we chose the one that we did. Okay, enough screwing around. Let's get this road on the show. Ryan, hit that audio record. Let's get this thing going here. Have myself a little bit of the waters, and we are going to do this. We're recording. Everybody's recording. Make sure I got stuff out of my. I don't need this. Let me just get this out of my way so I don't knock it over. And let's have a show. Oh, there's a big truck. No, it's gone. Okay. Hi. Let's do a show. Oh no, I gotta. What's my pre-show today? I don't even think about my pre-show. Usually I think about that. Probably should do that. Okay, here we go. Today is the 2-year anniversary of the Photo Moment show, and we're celebrating by talking about the 200mm f2.8 lens. Good morning and welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, the first live 3 times a week show here at youtube.com/PhotoJoseph in its 2nd anniversary. 2 years we've been doing this thing. 2 years right here at youtube.com/PhotoJoseph, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Actually, it's kind of a lie because we started on Facebook. We didn't start on YouTube until maybe a year and a little bit ago, a year and a few months ago. I started on Facebook. Around the time that Ryan started, a year and a couple months ago is when we switched over to YouTube full-time. And that's been great. That has been really, really great. And we still, at some point, have to simultaneously scan on Facebook and Twitch and all that. But, we'll get there. Maybe that'll be 3rd year. But it's been exciting. 2 whole years. If you haven't ever watched the first video, and hardly anybody has because it has like 20 views on it, we'll link to it up here. It's bad. But it's a start, it's a start. Anyway, so today, for our 2-year anniversary, we are talking about the 200mm f2.8 lens, because there's as many 2s as I could find. I was going to grab a GH2, but I don't have one. So it's 2s on the lens. And this lens is pretty awesome. We did an unboxing of it a little while ago. I'll link to that up here as well. That was a quick first look. I opened it up, went, oh, look, it has buttons on it that I don't know what they do. Good news, now I know what they do, and I'm going to explain that to you. So this shows in two parts. We're going to talk about the physical products of the lens, what the different buttons do, and how to set them up. And then we're going to look at some pictures that I took. I went out shooting, as you guys know, went out with Sean Bagshaw and a couple other folks who went out shooting the lupines, these beautiful purple flowers, and the redwoods. I thought I would get more use out of this lens there than I did. It was really foggy most of the time, so I couldn't use a really long lens for much. But I have a few samples. We'll look at those. And then last weekend, I took it out to my go-to long lens testing place, which is the Wildlife Safari Animal Park in Winston, Oregon, which is only like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from here. And it's pretty cool. So I brought the 100 to 400 there. We'll link to that show as well. There's a lot of shows to link to. Remember, command click on those so they open a different window. Don't watch them now. Make sure you watch this show. And you can look at those. You can look at that show to compare some of them. I'm not doing side-by-sides here. Obviously, different focal length, but also different aperture, so shallower depth of field with today's shots. That's what we're expecting to see. So that's what we're going to do. Let's start with the physical lens itself. It is, as you have undoubtedly seen, quite large. As far as Lumix Micro Four Thirds lenses go, this is a big one. This is the lens itself. This is the monstrous lens shade that it comes with. Obviously, you should probably often shoot with a lens shade, but I've also found that I was shooting a lot with a polarizer filter on there, which means you can't have the shade on because then you can't adjust it. But I never really had any problems with it. The shade is certainly good for protection, though, so both from the sun and from knocks and bumps. Given the cost of this lens, you will definitely want to take good care of it. The lens also comes with the 1.4x teleconverter, so this is a 200-2.8. You put this thing on there and it becomes a 280 f4. That 280 in full frame equivalent would be 560. That's a lot of millimeters. So it's a long lens with a long reach. Now I will say, clearly, I mean this is kind of obvious, doesn't need to be said, but I'll say it anyway. Clearly having a zoom lens is more convenient, right? If you've got a 100 to 400 or whatever your zoom range is, that is more convenient than having to take this lens off, add the teleconverter onto it, and put it back together. If you were shooting in a dirty environment like in the wilds of Africa, you probably would not want to be changing lenses because you'd get all kinds of crud and dust and stuff in there. So that is worth considering, that when you have a prime lens, a fixed focal length lens, and you're in an environment where you don't want to change lenses, you are going to be a bit more limited. But the advantage, of course, of that prime lens is it's faster. Right? This is an aperture of f2.8 versus the, I think, is it 4 to 5.6? Is that right? I don't remember, on the 100 to 400. It's a variable aperture. It's a slower lens, but this gives you that better bokeh, that shallower depth of field, and the greater light gathering capability for those lower light situations. So, you know, everything is a trade-off. You got to decide what works for you. So I'm going to leave the focal extender off, the teleconverter off, rather. I don't need that on here. And we're going to talk about the variety of buttons that are on this thing. So let's go in for the close-up shot here. Make sure that it's nicely focused. There we go. And let's talk about what's on here. So we'll start from here. You have this slider has 3 positions: call, memory, and function. We'll talk about those. A little button up above it that is triggering whatever is happening down here. So depending on this position, the position of this switch changes what this does. You have up here the focal range selector between full and 3 meters to infinity, the autofocus manual focus switch, and the power OIS. So let's go through them all. Power OIS, power optical image stabilization, allows you to, just with one click while here, to turn the stabilization off. This is generally something that you would want to do if you're on a tripod, but really only if you're on a really, really good tripod, because if you're on a kind of a less than great tripod, there's still going to be some movement in there, so the stabilization could still be to your advantage. If you're hand holding it, clearly you want the stabilization on. I believe when we did the unboxing, I did a looking through and we saw how much it was moving. I turned on the stabilization, you see how much it locks in. I'm not going to do that again now, but it is crazy, crazy impressive. And having that physical switch there just makes it more handy. You don't have to go digging into the menus. We also have the autofocus manual focus switch on here. This overrides the switch that's on the back of the camera. To be honest, I almost never use that. The one on the back of the camera, I know its position, it's intuitive, I know exactly where it is, so I don't really ever use that one, but it's there if you want to get to that one. Then the focus range selector, so full focus range or 3 meters to infinity. And what this basically is doing is it's saying when you're autofocusing, use the full range of the lens, which is about I think it's 1.15 meters if I remember right, to infinity, or only use 3 meters to infinity. And the advantage here is if you are shooting subjects that are farther away, like in the wild animal park, you know that nothing's going to be closer than 3 meters or else you're lunch. So in general, you know that your subject is farther away than that. You put the lens into that switch, into that position, and if there's a situation where the camera completely misses focus and it needs to go all the way back to macro to its closest, not macro, but its closest focus capability position before going back out again, by enabling that limiter, it doesn't have as far to go, right? So the focus can go, let's say here's infinity, here's your subject, here's the closest position. If for whatever reason it misses it, it doesn't have to go all the way back and then back up again. It only goes to the 3 meter mark and then back up. So it'll ideally focus more quickly in the events, in the situation where it might have just completely missed focus. But I don't remember honestly where I had it most of the time. This thing focuses on the G9, it's focusing lightning fast, and I don't know that it ever really missed focus. So there you go. Actually, no, I take that back. There's once in one environment where it can get a little bit tricky. And we'll talk about this more in a little bit. When I was out with the guys shooting in the woods, I was doing some pictures where I was trying to take pictures of them, but through trees, bushes, whatever. And I'm trying to use the autofocus, and I'm using the pinpoint autofocus, and I'm trying to basically position the focus point on somebody's face. But of course, there's layers and layers of trees and other stuff in front of me. And so sometimes if I wasn't holding it just right, or I moved a little bit, the camera would focus on those. In that environment where I'm going, no, refocus, no, try again, because I'm trying to get it in the right position, it might go all the way back and forth. So in that situation, it certainly would help. Incidentally, for those watching live, there are a lot of comments going on here right now, which is awesome. I'm super happy to see that. We will address these. We will come back to a Q&A portion of the show at the end of this. So do come back for that, or do stick around for that. Okay, so there's your focus positioning switch. That's what that guy does. And then the last one, the one that when I first opened it, I went, well, I guess I'm going to have to RTFM on this one because I don't know. There's call, memory, and FN. So FN is a separate thing. Forget about that for a moment. Memory and call work together. So call is recall. That's the full name of that. And the idea behind the recall is you can program, using the memory position, you can program a focus position, a position for the lens to be focused to. And that can be anything you want. It can be the closest focus possible, the furthest, somewhere between, totally up to you. The idea is that you have a one button capability to get the camera to that focus point almost instantly. So if you are, the way that I thought it kind of became most useful is setting it to the most closest focusing point. So if I knew that I was going to focus on something quite close to me, I could hit that button, it would rack the camera very quickly to the closest focusing, and then I could autofocus from there. But you could set it to whatever you wanted. You could set it however you wanted. If you know that you have stuff that is a certain distance away and that's always where it is, I don't know what environment that would be, but you can program that in. So let me show you how to program that, because there's some important details to it, and it's kind of cool to know. Okay, so first thing we do is we put the camera the lens into the memory position. So that's the middle position. At this point, I can now, I should probably turn the camera on. At this point, I can set the autofocus either manually or automatically, and then simply push that button to store the memory position. So if we look through the lens right now, I am going to switch this into manual focus, and you'll see on the bottom the focusing position. So I'm going to go all the way to the closest focusing. You can see that bottom right, you see the macro button, that's the closest focusing position. Then I will push on this button here. Remember, it's in memory. It is, right? Yep, it's in the memory position. I'm going to push on that. And when I do that, we're looking through the camera again. Look in the top right corner of the screen. See that little yellow light popped up? It said memory. Let me do it again. Push it. What is it? Memo. It's memory. Anyway, that little yellow button on there, boom, the yellow light means that I've just stored that position. So by pushing that button while in the memory, I've said that is the stored position. Now to use that position, I put the camera back into the call or recall position. And now let's go back to looking through the lens. I'm going to manually focus this all the way out and then push that button, boom, and it just switched all the way over to the closest focusing. You can see where that is now. So that's it. That's all there is to it. Now there is one very, very important aspect to this. To permanently store that memory position into the lens, you have to turn off the camera. This is not something that is just for the lenses. This is something that goes through every setting in your Lumix camera. If you've ever run into a situation where you've spent all this time programming something, and then you essentially yanked the power out by either just popping the battery out without powering it down, or if you had it plugged into an AC adapter and you had it plugged into the wall and you yanked that out of the wall, none of those memory settings would have been saved. The act of powering down the camera, part of what it does is it writes all of those settings into a permanent memory that it then can recall next time you turn it on. It's the same thing for the lens. That memory, lens focus position is stored in memory in the lens itself, and when you power off the camera, it writes that to the permanent memory, or the, not permanent, but flash memory, whatever you call it, the memory where it's stored so that it can be recalled later. And I know that it's stored in the lens because I tested it by saving a focus point, turning the camera off, moving this lens to another camera, and then seeing if it recalled that same focus point, and it did. And then I flipped it the other way. I set a new focus point on the other camera, powered the camera down, moved it back to the G9, turned it on, and boom, it called up that new focus point. So that is in fact stored in the lens. You do have to power the camera off to store it. It's not the kind of thing that is normally an issue because most people aren't just yanking the battery out of their camera or unplugging it from the wall. But it's more important to think about in the case of the lens because most of us don't turn off the camera before we switch lenses. So if you are using this lens, and you set that program, just remember that you got to power it off and that'll store it. And once it's stored, that's it. It's going to be there until you overwrite it, but just a very important point to know. Okay, the last function on here is right here. That is the FN. The FN is a function button. It is a programmable button, just like all the other buttons all over your camera. You can set it to do not anything you want to, but you can set it to do a lot of different things. So let's take a look at how to set that because it's actually not as obvious as you might have thought. Now you can, just like any other function button on the camera, you can reprogram it by simply pressing and holding on the button for a number of seconds, and then it pops up the menu. The problem is that the default function of that button is focus hold. So it's basically, if you're in autofocus, you press and hold that as long as you're holding it, the focus is locked. Do you see the problem? Because it is, as long as you hold it, it's locked. As long as you hold it, it's never going to pop up the menu to program it. Some of the functions that you can program into it are only active while pressing. It's not a toggle. It's not like I push it once and it switches modes to something else. It's only active as long as I'm holding it, which means that I can't just press and hold it to bring up the function program page. Make sense? So you need to know where it is in the menus. That's what it comes down to. So let me fire this up and get it into the menu here and bring this up on screen. Here we go. And the position for this, if we look at the normal camera settings and we go to operation, you would find FN button set, function button set. And if we go into here, you can set them for record or play separately. And these are all the different function buttons that you can program on the camera. You notice the lens a bit missing. So if we go back out of here, back, and we go down to lens/others, this is where you're going to find it. So lens position resume, here's the one we want, lens FN button setting. Now you'll notice when I go into this, there's only 2 pages of settings, actually a page and a half, so there's not that many things you can program into it. What I found useful, I thought this was pretty cool, was this scope mode. And this is, I believe, if I remember right, unique to the G9. This autofocus point scope allows you to punch way into the shot to check critical focus, which is super useful when you're using a long lens. So let me show you. I'm going to go ahead and activate that lens function button scope setting. There we go. And let's go back to looking through the lens. And I'm going to just focus on, put autofocus back on here. I'm going to focus on this light in the back there. And then if I push that button, let me find it, there we go, push the button, it zooms in so I get really critical focus check. And this is, again, especially useful in an environment where, like I described earlier, I've got my friends through the trees and I want to make sure that, is it focused on them or on that branch that's a foot in front of them that's, I can't really, so this allows me to really punch in and check that. So I thought that was pretty cool. So that is all the buttons on there. You have your aperture ring on front. If you haven't seen that before, you do have the fixed aperture, or the mechanical aperture ring, I should say, on the front of this, or you switch that into A for full auto. Obviously, you've got focus there. And the tripod mounting collar is on here as well. So if you're going to mount this on a tripod, you probably want to put this collar on here. You don't have to. It's just here if you are going to, if your body, like you've got the battery grip on here, you probably couldn't without this piece on here. You probably really couldn't get the plate on there. But if you're just going to hand hold it or you're putting it on there without the battery grip, you can take this off, mount your tripod directly to that. And then regardless whether you're using this or not, once it's mounted on here, you do have the rotating collar. So I can unlock that, and now I can rotate the camera within the lens by rotating this part of the collar in the lens without having to actually physically move the camera. What's really nice about that, as well as just the convenience of it, is it keeps your center point centered, right? Because it's rotating around the center of the lens, so whatever is in the center of your shot stays in the center of your shot as you rotate it. There are entire tripod heads that are designed this way so that you can easily go landscape to portrait, and those specific heads are designed to keep the the camera is centered, as opposed to just a standard tripod head where it just completely pivots and then suddenly your position is going, from here to here, as opposed to here to here. So it's just one of those little things. It's nice. It's a nice little function to have on there. Okay, that is all of that. Let's take a look at the lens on the B&H page so you can see exactly what it is we're talking about. We're going to hit a couple things, and then we're going to look at some pictures. So this is the lens. It is the Panasonic Leica DG Marit 200mm f2.8 power OIS lens, big long name, which it does include. It's important. It's kind of hidden down here. I think it would be a bit more obvious, but it does include that 1.4x teleconverter. It is normally a $3,000 lens. There is currently a promo on it, saving $500, bringing it down to $2,500, which is definitely still a spendy chunk of money, but it is a beautiful, wonderful, sharp lens. And that discount, incidentally, is not forever. This is a rebate going through June 17th. It's part of this Leica promotion month. You can see on your screen now all the different pricing that you get, all the different price options that you have in there. So if you're thinking about getting this or any other Leica branded lens, now is the time to do it. Really nice savings on that. Also, a couple other things I want to tell you about before we move on here. I don't know if you heard, but I'm going to India, and hopefully I'm going to take some of you guys with me. This is my next big workshop. It is January 30th to February 9th of 2019. All the details are at photojoseph.com/India. The tickets are actually not for sale yet. That happens this Saturday. There is a full information page on here with the complete itinerary. Some sample photos, not my photos. These are provided by the company that's organizing the logistics behind this whole thing. But we are going to go early next year and create our own incredible images like that one there. This is an incredible trip. We are going to see Kolkata. We're going to Allahabad, Varanasi near Jaipur, and then New Delhi. That's our full route on there. There's a complete detail, complete itinerary in here. Definitely go check that out if you think that you would like to go. Spend the next couple days really thinking about it, and then on Saturday, be ready to put down your deposit so that you can grab a seat. Now, incidentally, the cost of this thing, I'm going to talk about this very briefly here. You can read all the details on the page. This is a tiered, scaled cost thing. The way I've set this up is if we have, our minimum is four guests. If we have 4 guests, the trip is a go. There's a cost for that. As we add more guests to it, the cost for everybody drops. So if you decide to go, it is in your interest to help me get other people to go, because the more people we have, the cheaper it gets for everybody. Also, if you pay in full before June 15th, I think it is, you save 10%. So there's a lot of opportunities to save money here. It'll actually, the maximum discount is more than $1,000 off the full price. It would bring it down to under $5,000 for the whole thing if we fill it up and you pay in full by June 15th. And it doesn't mean we have to fill it up by June 15th. If you pay the full amount and it ends up being cheaper, you will get a refund. So super cool. It's going to be incredible. Check out the webpage, tons of information about it. I'm super excited about it. And before we go to India, long before we go to India, we're also going to Chicago. This is a much smaller, much more affordable workshop. The Out of Chicago conference is coming up June 22nd to 24th, so it's not that far away. That is a $500 weekend conference. It's not just me, it's a ton of really, really awesome photographers. Go check that out at outofchicago.com/summer and use the code PhotoJoseph to save 50% off of that. Okay, now let's look at some pictures, shall we? Let's pull up some photos in the Lightroom. I'm going to start with a couple of pictures just done from the little nature excursion that I went on. Nothing terribly exciting in here, but it was fun. Just like I said, I didn't really have the opportunities to shoot with a really long lens in there. But I kind of like this picture. This one is, I just put this up on Instagram yesterday, so those following there, at PhotoJoseph, by the way, might have seen that one already. And then just as a kind of a, obviously not macro, but showing what you can get when you do a closer focusing point. Pretty awesome, incredible bokeh on there. I mean, even just this set of lupine flowers, just slightly out of the distance there, are nicely out of focus. So you do get beautiful bokeh with this lens, I'll give you that. Incidentally, anybody watching this and wants to know the lens information or exposure, I'm going to leave this panel up, so if you're watching the video, you can just pause it, see if you want to critically take a look at what's going on there. Let's now take a look at some from the Wild Animal Park, because this is a lot more fun. All right, so for those of you who remember my trip out to this park last time with the 100 to 400, you will recognize my friend, and it is the same. It is the same bird. He wasn't as cooperative this weekend as usual, but that is my friend, Crazy Chicken. That's what I call him. That's his name, Crazy Chicken. This guy's nuts. He's all over the place. He actually attacked the reflection on a car last time I was there. Fortunately, it didn't happen this time. So let's see, the lions were really not close to the fence, so they were far away. This is probably, this is with the teleconverter. You can see that here. Incidentally, if you're wondering whether the shot's with the teleconverter or not, you look at the metadata you see here, plus the TC, so that means it was used. Obviously not very close, shot through a fence, definitely not a great shot, but it's all we could get. The giraffes were much more friendly today, or last weekend, and up nice and close, and I think it's coming up there is I just love that shot. Look at that. That is one happy giraffe. Eating thistle. I mean, come on. Do you really want to chew on the, ouch. Apparently giraffes like that sort of thing. So there you go, that's fun. That is, let's see, let me go back out of the full screen. That is without the teleconverter, right? With the teleconverter, it was just too close. These guys were close to the car. Fun guy there. All right, this is nice just to show a bit of the bokeh, a bit of the shallow depth of field. Obviously, zooming in, cropped in on the eye, not cropped, but this is, I'm just composing, there we go, that's what I was looking for, onto the eye. This is not with the teleconverter. You can see the thistles in the front, out of focus, and right behind her, out of focus. Even the eye, and look at the distance from this eye to that eye. So really shallow depth of field. Nice shot, pretty much always wide open, just because that's what I wanted to show with this thing. Beautiful, I really like this picture. I thought that was kind of nice. No fence here, fortunately. No fence with the giraffe either. This is kind of nice. Just look at the backline, the glow along the antlers in there. Just thought it was very, very pretty. Nice, pretty. The bears, love these bears. It's like, it's not even hot out, and the bear's like, whatever, I'm just gonna hang out here and be lazy. So here, this is cool because this is a difference between the 200mm and then the 200 with the teleconverter. So that is the difference. These are cropped, but only the top and bottom cropped. They are not cropped horizontally. Does that make sense? I cropped them just because the top and bottom of the shots were kind of boring. But this does show you the difference between the 200 and then the 200 with the 1.4. So there's a nice little close-up example of that. And that is one happy resting bear. Unfortunately, the rest of the bear shots kind of suck because it was, again, through a fence. And you can see, notice the foggy over the eye on here. That is because it's a chain link fence, and you can see the fence in here. So it is nicely out of focus, but I could not get really close to the fence. So incidentally, it is one of those things, if you're ever shooting through a fence, the closer you can get to the fence and the more distance between the fence and your subject, the better. But having that, if your subject is up against the fence and you're far away from the fence, that's going to be the worst, right? Because the difference is minimal, the difference between the subject and fence, minimal versus fence and you. So if you have you, fence, and then subject, you're going to get much better results. Now, obviously, if the subject's too far away, then you're not going to get shallow depth of field. The subject's not up close, so you hopefully get as close as you can. And you'll see at the end, some of my shots at the end, where the animal was quite close to the fence, but I was really close to the fence, allowed me to get some shots that pretty much look like the fence isn't there. But when you have that distance, and here we couldn't get out of the car, of course, and the fence was, I don't know, let's say the fence was 10 feet away, and then the bear is another 10 or so feet beyond that. Unfortunately, it just doesn't make for great pictures. So this is what we get. You get a lot of fence interference in there. No clear shots, but that's what it is. This, I don't know, llama, whatever the heck this thing is. I'm not a animalologist. Let's see, but pretty, right up close to the car. These are, I'm gonna go out of the full screen here. These are, yeah, without the teleconverter because this guy was close, real close. The elephant, also really close. Now this one is with the teleconverter, but I love, elephant skin is so cool looking. And when you get up really tight like this, you're going, okay, what am I looking at? Well, that's the elephant's mouth eating the hay. I don't know how hay is good, but apparently it is. There you go, trunk pushing hay into mouth. I love it. I think it's cool. Pretty nice close-up, nice, like I'm freezing the action of all the hay flying around on there. Yeah, the elephant skin is just so awesome. It also makes really good black and white. So I love this shot. I'm gonna take this one, and just because it's fun, I'm gonna very quickly go into black and white on there. And do a little auto adjust maybe, and I don't know, maybe play with the yellow, kind of brighten that up a little bit, pull the contrast down. That's just kind of cool. I mean, I love it. I love it. A little extra clarity. Kind of cool, right? I mean, elephants. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, next up is, see more elephant trunk. We've seen enough elephants. This animal. And then, okay, this is fun. So the cheetahs. Now this particular park, big props to Wildlife Safari in Winston, Oregon. If you've never been, you're in the area, definitely go. They are either one of the or the most successful breeding grounds for big cats in the United States, or in North America even, I think. And they have, oh shoot, now what's the number? It's been over, I want to say over 400, like 430 or something cubs born and raised in this park. Big cats, I think largely cheetahs. I'm probably getting the numbers all messed up here, but it's a big number of the big cats. And it's an incredible place to see these animals. And they have these wonderful, wonderful environments to live in. It's not like these zoos where they're in little cages. This is a really, really nice place. So these pictures definitely suck because I'm close to the fence. I'm not close enough to the fence, sorry. The animal's quite close to the fence, and this fence was like a double fence because they eat things. And I just wanted to get these up. Look at the blood. It's got some bloody thing he's chewing on, and look at how happy that cat is. Look at that bloody. I just thought this, even though they're crappy pictures, I just wanted to share with you because it was really, really fun. But we're gonna get some really nice shots of the cheetah coming up here in a moment. Then we walk around a little bit. So when you go to this park, there's the drive-through safari park, and then you get out at the kind of visitor center, I guess you will, if you will, and there's a lot of other stuff there that you can see, including some more cheetahs. So we'll see that in a second. But in this walking around, there's some flowers, and so I thought I'd shoot some stuff like this just to, again, show that kind of macro-ish capability, getting pretty close to the subject, and that incredible, incredible bokeh in there that you can get with this lens. So it's kind of pretty. Look, bumblebee. And the lion, that is the same lion as in the first shot, but you can see him from above, so there's no fence in the way, but he was really, really far away. That's with the teleconverter and is still a tiny thing in the scene. So sad, boring, but there it is. Bald eagle, this was cool. I hadn't seen these guys before. Here I was able to get quite close to the fence, so we don't have the fence problem. It was very, very dark in there though. So these are all, yeah, shot at 3200 ISO. So it's very dark in here. I've done a little bit of denoising on these shots just to kind of clean it up a little bit. But it was cool to be able to get that close to the bald eagles. That's not something that I've really been able to do before, so that was kind of cool to get that. Nothing like Scott Bourne's photos from Alaska. If you don't know who Scott Bourne is, Google. If you haven't seen his photos from Alaska, they've been all over Facebook. I probably have to follow him on Facebook to see him, but he's got some incredible bald eagle shots, so definitely check those things out. If you like bald eagles, amazing, amazing. And they're in the wild, crazy stuff. Okay, then we get to my favorite cheetah shots. Check these out. Look at how close, this is not cropped. This is with the teleconverter, so I went full board on this one. Let's get in there close. But here the fence is very close to me. She is also very close to the fence. She, he, I don't know the difference. I'm going to say she. You can see, though, look at the bokeh pattern in here. The stripes, the angles, that's from the fence. But I'm just going to roll through these because I think this is just so beautiful. Look at this thing. Zoom in nice and close on that. Super sharp on the fur there, on her eye. Just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And this is really cool to be able to get. There's without the teleconverter. So 200mm on its own. We really were that close. It's beautiful. But again, safety of a fence between us. And I love this. And then there's one, look at that, just straight on. So cool. So cool. And then one of these pretty kitties went and jumped up on a little platform and decided to pose very nicely. Again, through the fence, but here you really don't see the fence because, again, I'm quite close to the fence. I'm on foot. So I'd say I'm like there's a barrier in front, so the fence is here as a barrier, maybe 3 feet or so. I can kind of lean in a little bit. So let's say 2 to 3 feet lens to fence. And then the cat was 10 to 15 feet away, give or take. So nice distance, the right ratio of distance. So that fence just, boom, it's gone completely out of the way. And we've got these really nice shots of the kitty cat. The drooling kid, it's like she's sitting there looking at all the people out there going, oh, look at that, I'm hungry. Look at, she's drooling, looking at all the kids going, man, that's easy prey. Look at that. Isn't that nice? And this nice bokeh, nice soft background. This is where that 2.8 is really, really showing its advantages, showing its benefits. So there, my friends, are the pictures. So that's what we got. Okay. That's what I wanted to show you. Beautiful lens, spendy, but gorgeous. Great quality, as you can see. Fantastic low light performance. Autofocus, especially paired with the G9. Super, super fast. I shot over 500 pictures. Very, very few missed focus overall. Granted, I wasn't doing any kind of tracking, running shots. There just wasn't any of that happening. So it's a fairly easy focus situation. But I can just say that it was always very quick to focus. And other than trying to figure out to get it to focus on the animal instead of the fence between us, which is going to be a challenge no matter what. Focus was never a problem. It worked out really well. It's heavier than most other lenses. It is a bigger lens, but that said, I still handhold all these shots. Everything you saw here was handheld, and I did take this off to make it more comfortable holding my hand. And occasionally I probably rested it on the windowsill just because, but for the most part, it's just handheld, no tripods on any of these. And that's it. And then, again, swapping back and forth between this, a little bit tedious, but it is worth it if you are in a clean environment to be able to get those closer up, more shallow depth of field shots than you could with a zoom lens. So that is that. We are now going to go into the Q&A section of the show. I see there's lots of stuff coming up there on the comments, so we're going to address all those. Also, if you've made it this far, we are going to, in the Q&A, talk about the announcement from Panasonic of a GH5, GH5S, and G9 firmware updates that was just announced. I haven't had any time to prepare for it, so I've got it pulled up on here. We're going to quickly look through it and see what's in there, but we'll talk about that in the Q&A coming up right now. Good morning and welcome back to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, the Q&A portion of the show. If you missed the main show, click up here. You can watch that. That'll be the portion of the show that was the main show. I already said that. We're talking about this lens, the Panasonic Leica 200mm f2.8 lens for your fancy dancy Lumix camera. And we've just looked at a bunch of pictures, went through all the features of it, and now we're going to answer any questions that might have come up during the show. We're also going to talk about the just announced, let me pull up the webpage here, firmware update coming for the GH5, GH5S, and G9. So there's a lot going on here. Let me just pull this up. Again, I did not have time to prep for this. This is a big surprise for me, but I want to go through some of the quick things in here that I caught scanning through it. This is broken out into 3 separate things for the 3 different cameras. I believe these functions are largely the same, so we're just going to quickly go through the first one, which is for the GH5. Addition of these new photo styles, the Photo Style L Monochrome D, which is this really cool, I've only seen samples, I haven't played with it myself yet. It's this really cool monochrome film-like profile. So if you like the idea, if you like shooting black and white film, this gives you a very black and white film-like profile. And remember, if you're shooting RAW plus JPEG, then you get to have that black and white, greeny, cool JPEG, plus you have the RAW file. You can go back to it any time if you want to do a completely different version of black and white, or you want to make it color, because it is color, you have that. So when this was announced with the GX9, is that right? I think that's right. I think that's the right model number. I think that's the right model number. Anyway, that was recently announced with another camera, and that is now being brought to these 3 cameras, which is great. I'm actually excited for that because I've been looking forward to playing with that, and I haven't yet played with it. So that's, it has a grainy mode that's part of that black and white look. Additional features: added focus ring lock. Okay, cool. Added function allow you to change the settings while pressing white balance settings. A lot of these are going to take some digging into, which I'll do at another time. Dial was added to operation lock settings to the custom menu. Oh, that's handy. Live view boost. Oh, okay, cool. When you're shooting, oops. Oh, let's just get rid of that. Silly thing. No, that was the wrong button. Sorry, we'll cut that part out. Here we go. The live view boost added to make it easier to check subjects displayed on the monitor when shooting dark places. That's really handy. So if you're in the dark and you just want to brighten up your screen just so you can see what the heck's going on, super handy there. Adding the night mode. Oh, that's the red mode. Okay, cool. Adding the night mode to the other cameras. Awesome. Added a menu to turn off the power indicator. Oh, thank you. Added a menu to turn off the power indicator lamp on the wireless connection lamp in the setup menu. That means if you have a G9, GH5S, maybe it's on both of them. You know, when you use the wireless functionality, there's this bright blue LED on here. And it's bright. And let me tell you, when I first got the GH5, I was out playing with that, shooting at night. You can read by that light. It is a bright blue light. And it's just, if you want to have your wireless thing connected, your wireless capability on all the time, connected to your phone, so you get the GPS logging, which is an awesome thing to be able to do, that light is so bright. So on the newer cameras, you could turn it off. On the GH5, you could not. They've added that in. Thank you, Panasonic. I'm very happy for that. Then we get into an interesting one. Look at this. Main performance improvement, improving the autofocus speed specifically at 180 degrees, which tells us that the whole thing of when you get under 180 degrees shutter was probably, you get better autofocus performance is probably true. It was true. I totally verified that. I've been shooting pretty much nonstop at 179 degrees since that revelation came out, and now it looks like it's being addressed, so we should not have that problem. We should have faster focusing at 180 degrees. It'll be interesting to see what else is included in this, if any other improvements. We will certainly check that out and see. Fortunately, I have 2 GH5s, so I will be able to do a side-by-side comparison, update one of them, not update the other, and see what kind of differences we have, which is cool. So yay on that. Let's see if there's anything else worth pointing out in here. So now we're getting into, that's a little thing. So we'll go through all these little ones later on, but there's a lot of other small, minor updates. G9, same thing, the photo styles with the grainy mode, focus ring locks, the same thing. I think it's largely going to be the same autofocus improvement. They don't have the degree shutter angles function on there, but you do have it on the GH5S. So I'm assuming we're going to find that same thing here. Yep, here we go. Autofocus speed at 180 degrees is improved on the GH5S. The same photo style modes, the same focus ring locks. Yeah, yeah, basically the same thing. It's essentially the same update going out to all 3 cameras. So that is awesome. Oh, and on here, check this out. On the GH5S, vector scope can be disabled on the screen during the white balance setting. I saw something about vector scope being enabled during white balance. Anyway, so some options there as well. Okay, so that's that. Great. Now let's get into the questions, shall we? Let's see what's going on in the Q&A. People saying happy 2-year anniversary. Thank you. This is 2 years the show has been going on. I can't believe it. Good morning, Jake. Good morning, Matt. Good morning, everybody. Burns Tech, you like physical switches for something, especially for options that are used often. Absolutely. Physical switches are fantastic. I don't know, you might have been referring to when I was the optical stabilization switch or the autofocus switch. I was saying I don't use the autofocus switch on the lens very often, if at all, because it is a mechanical switch on the camera here, which I use all the time. But the optical stabilization being on a switch to turn on and off is definitely a nice thing to have. Sir says, you seem to be using a batter grip on tripod as you have the QR plate attached. Oh, you mean this thing? Well, that was just for the show. Do you have any issues with 1/4-inch hole being off the lens axis on the grip? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so this 1/4-inch hole is saying is off axis. It's slightly off, I guess, from the center point. I have, other than for a quick shot, I don't know that I've ever actually really used this camera with this grip on a tripod. So the answer is no, but because I haven't really tried, I haven't really done much with it that way. But if I was going to use this lens, of course, I would put the tripod, put this on and put the tripod plate on this attachment. But no, I haven't had an issue with it, but I haven't been using it enough to really tell you whether it's an issue. So sorry, I can't really give you a good answer on there. Bird's Tech, I absolutely try to never just pull power for any device. Okay, so now we're talking about when, with the lens, I was saying that once you program the memory function in there, you have to turn the camera off to save that memory setting to the lens. Burns is saying, I absolutely try to never just pull power for any device, always attempt to power down properly. It makes me cringe to just pull the plug. Yeah, that goes for anything. Whether you're talking about your camera or your vacuum cleaner, it's better to power it down properly and then unplug. But you know, sometimes things happen, sometimes you can't, sometimes it's just the way it is. But just a reminder, anything that you have set in the camera, any modes, any custom settings, anything, if you just yank the power by either popping the battery out or if it's connected to AC, just pulling it out of the wall, those settings will not be saved. You have to power the camera down. And I know this from experience because my close-up camera here and actually my above camera here are both old GH4s. And these are all plugged in, hardwired into the AC, all of which is on a system that I can turn on and off with a touch of. If I push this button, we go dark. We won't push that button. But it includes turning those cameras off. And so if I make a change to the camera, I need to remember to power the camera off and back on to save that. Otherwise, next time I boot up my room, those settings won't be there. So there you go. Tony Hill, hi from London. Hello back in London. Slightly off subject, no such thing. But have you heard about the new firmware update? Oh, look at that. There you go. We just talked about the firmware updates. Thank you. SRO Digital, I do love the punch-in facility, both during manual focus and autofocus for checking focus accuracy, a great selling point for mirrorless. That's when we're talking about being able to zoom in. That's the function that I've programmed the function button for on this lens to be able to punch way in and really, really check critical focus. Super, super useful when there's other stuff that in between your subject and the camera that it might be focusing on and you might not be able to tell unless you look really, really closely. Kevin Hollick says, very nice cheetah pics. Thank you. Love the close-up composition. The detail of the lens is super nice. That it is. I'm definitely in the market for a telephoto lens after they're getting the Minicon f0.95 for filmmaking. Isn't that an awesome lens? I love that lens. It is very, very nice. Yeah, this is gorgeous. I've shot some video with it. Incidentally, when I was on the couple days adventure with Sean and Zach and Paul, I did shoot a bunch of video. I will edit that. I have another project I have to finish first, and I'm trying to be disciplined. I'm not going to start this fun project until I finish this other one first. I'm trying to be a good boy here. So I will get to that. Well, look at this. This is kind of nice. Let me pull this thing up. Someone, Jim Williams, just popped up a big old super chat for 10 quid. Thank you, my friend. That is very, very kind of you. That's like $1,000 US. The exchange rate's really good these days. Let's see here. Jim says, hi, great value as always. Awesome. Came into the video at the back end, so apologize if already mentioned. Is the teleconverter specific to the 200? I have the Pani 100 to 400 and oh, so tempted. I believe that it is. Let's find out, because I saw there's a 2X version of this that you can get, which is, I'm pretty sure, specific for this lens, but let's just see. It's the TC14. Let me, let's go pull this up on the B&H webpage. So the TC14, let's just copy this, and I think you can buy this on its own. Well, I don't know if you can. Let's see here. There's the 2X one. Okay, so the 2X one is compatible with the 200-2.8. I'm going to assume that that means that the 1.4X, especially since it's not being sold separately, is only available with the only compatible with the 200-2.8. I think that is a safe assumption. So this is cool. You can get a 2X adapter as well. Man, that'd make it an 800mm lens. Whoa, that'd be slick. So that is, I believe, I know that in the manual it says it only works with this lens, but I don't know if that's something that can change. It has quite a large protrusion. Let's get this into the shot here. You can see how far this sticks up. So obviously any lens this goes on would have to have that much of an inset inside of it, which isn't a big ask. I think a lot of lenses, a lot of long lenses do, but it is definitely designed for this lens. I think that it would be a bad idea to try and put it on any other lens. That's what I think. That's what I'm going to stick with that one. So thank you again very, very much, Jim. That is very, very much appreciated. I love it. All right. Now let's go back to Punch in Function. We talked about that. Nice cheetah pics. Thank you. Burns Tech. Don't forget the value for value plug. Oh, thank you, Burns. I appreciate the reminder. Well, I'll just pull it up right now. I wasn't going to do that one as well because I talked about India and Chicago. But if you did learn something today, then by all means, please do consider visiting PhotoJoseph.com/support. Lots of different ways to support via Patreon, PayPal, shopping at the affiliate store, watching my good old training on lynda.com, or of course, you can hire me directly for just about anything photography related. We're going to put the photography related in there as well. Thank you very much. Value for value. If you gained value, please consider putting value back. It keeps us on the air. Burns says, GH5 has that annoying ass blue light. Yes, it does. Why do manufacturers use that blue LED? Use a soft, dim white LED. It's so much better on the edge. I know. I don't know why. That is a very bright blue light, but now we can turn it off. I actually had on my GH5 for a while a piece of gaff tape covering it, which I punched a pinhole through so that I could still see if the light was on. But now we'll be able to just turn that off, which is super nice. Burns, yes, I was referring to any physical switch for a commonly switched function, especially on the lens. Like you said, saves the hassle of menu settings. Absolutely. Love having switches. That's one of the cool things about the G9 as well, is you have this extra switch down here, extra little function button. If you haven't seen this, I don't need that anymore. Let's get that up here on the close-up. This little function switch down there is unique to the G9. I have mine programmed to go into night mode, so if you push that, everything goes red. It's great. I love having that function on there. Let's see here. Matt Diver said, any noticeable quality reduction with the 1.4X converter? Is it a special one or available separately? So we answered the available separately part. It is not. Noticeable quality reduction, not that I noticed. It's not as shallow depth of field, of course, but let's just do this. Here's what we'll do. We'll go to the Lightroom pictures of the bear, since I took the exact same picture. Oh, this is not, oh, this is Lightroom, what do you call it? CC. I can't do a split side by side with this version of Lightroom, but let me go. Incidentally, so this is supposed to be 100%. It's definitely not. I think Lightroom is confused because it's a Retina screen, but it's not displaying Retina, so it's only showing this half the size. But yeah, so there's 100% with the 1.4X. Will it stay centered? There's 100% without. Can't really get it in the same position there. It just keeps moving the shot. Anyway, I'm not, oops, wrong way. I'm not seeing anything. I mean, it is super sharp. So again, that's the 200 on its own. That's the 200 with the 1.4X. If I zoom out of this, that's the wrong button. Let's see here. I always forget the keyboard shortcuts for this thing. It's different than standard Lightroom. Let me do this. Let me uncrop it just to, yeah, so you can see I only cropped the top and bottom off of this. So yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing any extra vignetting. And there might be a little focus vignetting around the edges. I haven't noticed any, but overall, it's an impressive teleconverter. I think it has worked. I think it was working very, very well. Again, you drop from f2.8 to f4, understandable. But yeah, that's really nice. Alrighty, Senator says, is it possible to save camera settings to the second card, having two inserted, so that when the first one is formatted, save profiles, save on the second one? When you save the profile settings, I don't remember if it asks you which card you want to save it to. That's a funny question, actually. Let me see. So now I need this back in here. I don't recall what the options are, so let's find out. All right, bring up the menu system, and let's see if I can remember where this is. It is under here, I believe. Which page is it on? Monitor, night mode, monitor display, monitor luminance, language, double slot. Oh, yeah, it's not in there. Where is it? I think it's there. I think I probably just rolled right past it. Somebody's watching me going, you passed it, you idiot. Travel date, Bluetooth, wireless connection lamp. See, that's the function, incidentally, that's got added to the GH5 or will be added to the GH5, the ability to turn that wireless function lamp off. Thank you. Economy, monitor display, LVF night mode, monitor, status, backlight, eye sensor, battery use, USB, TV language, version display, folder file settings, double stop function number, reset. Pixel refresh, sensor cleaning. Okay, apparently it's not where it is. No matter how much you use these things, you can never remember where everything is. Let's try it under others. Profile setup. Here's what I'm going to guess. I can never find these things. It's just, okay, here's how would this be, how cool would this be for an addition to the menu system? To be able to search, you know, like on your iPhone, you pull down and you start, like when you're in the menu settings, you pull down, you can start typing in something and it finds likely matches. But typing is kind of a pain on here. What if I had a voice thing? And you could say, save memory settings. And it searched, and it, like a Google search, and it gave you the most likely results. Wouldn't that be cool? A guy can dream. Where is this function? Monitor auto reviews. I don't think it's in here. I must have gone past it earlier, like a complete noob. Profile setup. It's not profile. Nope, not profile. There's people probably telling me where it is on here. People saying, yes, they want the search. I know, search would be a wonderful, wonderful thing in here. I just... Dial setting, joystick setting, operation, video touch, auto review. Well, maybe we're getting to it. Constant review, peaking, histogram. There's so much control in here, so many things you can do. It is really, really insane. Okay, I don't even know where it is. I'm just completely lost. I'm sure it's on this first one. Last time I'm looking. If you're bored by now, I'll put a timestamp earlier in the recorded version of this, because I know it's in here. Monitor display, LVF display, night mode, monitor. You know what's going to happen is I'm going to be editing the video. I'm going to look back and go, oh, it was right there. Battery, TV, language, version display, folder file settings, double slot. Oh, it's right there. I did go past it. It's just not highlighted. Why is it not highlighted? Save, restore camera settings. Interesting. I wonder if that's because there's only, it's because there is only a card in slot 2. So that's what's going on. That's why I didn't see it, because it was grayed out. Okay, so that answers your question. No, apparently you can only save the settings into slot 1. But here is, so what he's asking, this camera, along with the GH5, GH5S, have dual SD card slots. With all of those cameras, you can save your custom settings. Basically your entire camera setup. You can save it to a file on the SD card. It's fantastic. So if you want to have multiple setups, let's say you have a completely massively configured camera for sports shooting and then another one for landscape, real estate, whatever. You can have these different profile settings that you can then call up at any time. So way more than just saving a couple of the C modes, you can save the entire camera in a setting file. You save that to the internal SD card. The question from Serge was, can you save it to a card in slot 2? The answer is an apparent no, since the function wasn't even available, because I only have a card in slot 2 right now. I don't have a card in slot 1. So you have to put the card in slot 1. His concern is that if you reformat the card, you're going to lose those settings. Yes, you are. Here's what I recommend. I recommend that you take an old SD card that you're not using, like a little one, little 4 or 8 gig card, something you got laying around, and use that, label that one camera settings, and just use that card as your dedicated card for saving your settings on there. That's what I'd recommend. Then you don't ever have to worry about shooting over it, accidentally erasing it. You always know which card it's on. It's a dedicated card. Stick a label on it and make sure you always use that one for the settings. That's what I do. That's what I recommend you do. Sweet. Okay. Let's see here. Bart, need to add search function to the menus. Yeah, people say Burns wants search too. That would be great. It's just there's so much in here. We need search, just like we do on the iPhone. Great. Bart says, great minds think alike. Yes, they do. Okay. Oh, that's what Digital saying. I think both converters were discussed with Sean Robinson's during Hugh Brownstone's video about the G9 and 200mm lens. I think something was said about the use with other lenses eventually. Oh, okay. Cool. That'd be neat. I mean, if it physically fits, it'd be awesome to be able to do that, right? That'd be nice. Okay. That's it. We are wrapping this up. Thank you, everybody. That was a good long show. Thanks for the 2-year anniversary, coming in to watch that one live. That was fun. And joining me for this lovely event here. Just talking about the 200-year anniversary, 200-year anniversary. We're talking about the 2mm lens. Aha! Get that one. That's what we'll be doing in 200 years. Wow. No, 2-year anniversary, 200mm f2.8 lens. Lots of twos in there, all rounded out perfectly. If you didn't watch the main show, go watch that. If you made it this far, congratulations. And we have one more show this week. That'll be on Friday. And then next Monday is a holiday, so we will not be doing a show on Monday. We'll be back on the Wednesday, but we'll see you on Friday. No worries about that. All right, guys. Thank you very much, everybody. Great for having you here. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.